What if I told you that getting started with advanced performance testing using JavaScript isn't as difficult as you think? How? Check it out.
So my name is Firas. I've started my career back at RadView Software or Mercury Interactive. I've been there for about 7 years, most of those years in the LoadRunner area. And then I left to found my own startup, Shield 34. And a few years later came the acquisition from Radview. And that's how I joined Radview. That was in 21. And I joined as the chief product officer. And a year later, I was promoted to be the CEO here at Radview. So I've been doing this. I've been in this role for about 2.5 years, something like that.
You know, you were at a competitor. Now you're with Radview. Radview's been around for a while. I've been doing performance testing for a while. So what drew you to Radview then? As like, hey, here's the company I believe in as maybe taking performance testing to the next level.
Yeah, so like you said, Radview has been around for more than 30 years. So WebLOAD, load testing product has been in development for over 30 years, and it's still in development. So we've just still innovating. Just added a few months ago an AI feature to the product, which maybe we'll discuss a bit later. You know, coming from those areas, and I grew up in load testing with LoadRunner, and seeing WebLOAD as very similar products, very similar approaches to load testing in regards of methodology and so I felt at home right away. It just made sense, and yeah, we went for it.
I actually, as I mentioned, I have a blog post on open source performance tools that I think are great to get your feet wet and maybe do some like high level performance. But when I worked in healthcare insurance, like I would never have used these tools because they didn't have all the functionality I need for enterprise wide performance. So maybe could you tell me maybe the difference you see between maybe a tool that maybe helps with performance, but not necessarily like a full blown enterprise? Why that's so unique or so critical?
As an example, the correlation side of the scripting is one of the most tedious stages of the scripting side, and more error prone, and takes maybe most of the time. Maybe all of the open source tools don't have, that advanced correlation engine. Some of them don't have anything at all. WebLOAD has in our opinion, and from what we hear from our customers and customers that move transition to WebLOAD from other big tools in the market, we have the most advanced correlation engine. So we see customers that transition from other competitors to WebLOAD. Usually, we in the POC or evaluation process, we have a meeting with them where they are showing us like an entire product that they've built on their own around correlation. And usually the conversation goes 90% of that is just supported out of the box with WebLOAD. And it's for a very simple fact is that we're a very customer-centric company. Almost every new correlation rule that we get out of any support case or any conversation with the customer, we just add it to the product. So over 30 years, our correlation engine has been in development till this day, and we have some very advanced and unique stuff that nobody understands. We have some YouTube videos about advanced correlation that nobody understands till they get to a point that they need that feature, and then it's an eye opener. Okay, now I understand. Wow, that's I've spent months building that on my own with the competitor that I used earlier, and now it's just supported out of the box.
Right. I just want to jump in really quick. In case you don't know what correlation and performance testing is, it's the process of capturing and using dynamic values that are passed between the client and server during a test. You make a request, you get a response back. A lot of times there's dynamic values such as session IDs, tokens, or unique identifiers that are generated by the server in the response to your client requests, and they need to be handled correctly to maintain the realism and the accuracy of the test. And a lot of times this will break if you don't get the correlation correct. It's also very, very tricky depending on the technology you're testing, and that's why it's such a big deal. All right, back to you.
On top of that, with WebLoad, you code with JavaScript, and it's pure JavaScript. You can get any JavaScript library from anywhere you want and get it into your script. That's all good. The analysis side of it, so having a rich dashboard that gives you the ability to compare graphs, do some regression, comparing different runs of the same test, and anything that you can think of in regard of analysis. The AI that we've just added on the analysis side, analyzing the results. So WebLoad can analyze the results on its own using AI and can save lots of time. And people that could be not that proficient in analyzing load test results can be very, very helpful. So that's another thing that you don't get with open source, and the support that I mentioned earlier. So it's a very complex ecosystem. The requirements and the complexity of what you're doing. In many cases, you need somebody to hold your hand a bit and help you plan that out and get it working 100%. And that's something that you don't get with open source. Open source tools are very good tools, and they're good for smaller use cases, more straightforward. But when you get to more enterprise level scenarios, you need more commercial tool like WebLoad.
So what I thought's interesting is it started 30 years ago. You went with JavaScript, and people that aren't old enough, JavaScript wasn't taken very seriously 30 years ago. It was like a toy language. And I had to teach myself C. I used LoadRunner. I taught myself C using LoadRunner, which is cool. But JavaScript is the language now. So it's kind of great foresight to see that JavaScript would be, obviously saw JavaScript years and years before anyone else did as being a major player nowadays.
Yeah, totally. And the fact that JavaScript is so popular today, you have endless libraries out there that can help you achieve stuff. Even using ChatGPT, Copilot, or any of the AI tools, when you're asking them for stuff in JavaScript, they're much more proficient than other less popular languages, so that turned out to be a real genius decision that the company took 30 years ago, we see now the flexibility of using JavaScript against any other language, just magic.
So what do you see the future direction in performance testing? I know you mentioned AI. You just mentioned ChatGPT. I've started to see companies actually integrate a chat, like a chat type of feature with AI in the product to say, hey, tell me about performance on this run, or like just able to chat with the results almost.
Yeah. So it's quite funny that it's something that we have high on our backlog, adding this feature where you can just chat with WebLoad about the results, and we're adding it these days to our documentation. So you can ask, when you're on the documentation side, how can I do this and that, and AI would tell you out of pulling out of not just pulling out the article. That's something that has been here for more than 10 years, but just giving you the right answer, like ChatGPT would, or something like how to code something. It would just give you the code. So like I mentioned earlier, so AI has to be much more used with the load testing and performance testing tools. And when I say has to be much more used, doesn't have to be always a feature in the product, but you have to make, for example, the WebLoad API very well known to ChatGPT, Copilot, and the other AI products there, because we think that our users are using ChatGPT and others to ask questions about, how can I code this and that with WebLoad? How can I get this, for example, correlation done? Or, I have this set of APIs. How can I do this and that? And we have to make sure that those AI tools can provide you the accurate and correct code to use with WebLoad. So that's also something that we are investing in getting our API very public out there, so all the AI tools can know very well and enough examples. And so we think that AI is going to be taking over, and today it's more used as a co-pilot. You're trying to script something or you're trying to code something, and it's not really working, or you wanna go for a shortcut and just ask the AI to code you this piece of code or something. That's how it is used today. In load testing, maybe still not as much as developers do, but we think that also performance engineers are going to be there much widely than it is today. And the expectation of our users, we think that in a few years, is all the tedious and manual things that they have to do with the tools that they're using. They're going to have much less tolerance for those tasks, and they would expect vendors like us to provide them with the AI capability to just eliminate that task from their day to day and just have the AI handle that. And like I said earlier, they're very, very classic use cases for AI in load testing. And what we just added to WebLOAD is the beginning, and we're going to be adding much more things in the near future.
We kind of teased it already about AI. How can AI then? I always thought AI was a better use case for performance testing because of all the data. So maybe talk a little bit about AI and performance testing, how things have changed over the years with AI helping testers.
Yeah, totally. So in load, like you mentioned, in load testing, there are several classic use cases for AI. So whether it's results analysis, anomaly detection, on the scripting side, create the script itself, help with correlation, validation. Validation is also a topic where people don't invest much in, and usually they miss when they go live because they're not doing validations thoroughly enough. And AI can help a lot there. The way we see it is we see that AI will be used much more in the tools that we use today. I'll say in the whole software development or DevOps or software lifecycle. By the people themselves, by the personas, whether developers, QA, performance engineers, DevOps engineers, and the tools that they are using, because it just much more productive and much more accurate. And that's an area where we are investing in. We have a full roadmap going to AI, and we've just rolled out a few months ago the first stage of it. We call it the AI Explainer. So we leverage AI to analyze the results, pinpoint interesting areas in the results where we think this is where the issue starts. That's where those two measurements are out of correlation, and that's where things started breaking. And every release we're making that a bit more complex and a bit more productive, and so it saves lots of time in finding those spots on your own manually. And we hear that from customers that they're not real performance engineers, and they can't really analyze and understand the results that they're getting. They get lost, with all those data points that we throw at them.
Yep.
So we the explainer also, the way that we build it is to explain the results, not only to find those spots, but when your hits and users are suddenly out of sync, they're not correlated. What does that mean? Okay, I understand that this is a problem, but what does that mean? What should I look for next? And we're leveraging AI also for that, to explain the results and not only to analyze the results. We think that years from now, AI is going to be much more used on a daily basis by our users, and we should be there also with the tool itself, AI integrated very deeply. totally a topic that is on top of our backlog.
So once again, I'm going back in the day when I did a performance test. It was always tough to know what to monitor. There was so many things you could monitor: what servers, what things, what counters. And so when you came to analyze the results, you didn't know what monitor really meant at that point in time. Can AI help you know that, all right, we're turning everything on, we're monitoring everything, the CPU, memory, and everything else, the disk space on all the different servers? Is it able to tell you, hey, this monitor matters here because it is definitely correlating with this increase in load?
Yeah, totally. So it explains why this spot here where things are not correlated anymore, why this is important, why this is interesting. So what if they are suddenly uncorrelated? And the explainer says that when this is not correlated, it means that the server, for example, is not taking as fast as it was before the calls, and things are trying to queue up there. So memory could be starting to get full, and go through the whole scenario.
So we spoke about a lot about open source solutions. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I think you've been very fair like that. Depending on use case, you may use open source, but in others, you probably want to use an enterprise solution. And I don't like pitting tools together, but once again, I've been performance testing. I started, and the go-to tool, one of the only tools, was LoadRunner. So I'm just curious to know, and if you don't want to answer, that's fine. But how would you compare WebLOAD versus LoadRunner?
Yeah, great question. Being also a guy who grew up in LoadRunner, I've just know the two products just too well. I was a part of the R&D team at some point, a product manager, and so LoadRunner is a great tool. Okay, we'll start with that. Comparing the two, I think they're the two pioneers in the market. This both started back in the early 90s, and they're both. The way I look at it is just it's using the two products is very similar. They implemented the same, almost the same load testing methodology. With LoadRunner, you code with C. With WebLOAD, you code with JavaScript. And of course, there are the advantages and disadvantages of every tool. But what I can say about WebLOAD is the correlation engine that we have is just the best in the market, no matter which tool you're comparing it to, and that's something that again we're very proud of, and we see that from companies who are transitioning to WebLOAD from other competitors. We see how much they invested in correlation using the other competitors compared to what they have out of the box with WebLOAD. So that's no matter which tool you're comparing WebLOAD to, that's WebLOAD would always win. The support, the solution that we're providing. So it just performance engineers, just a tip of your phone call or an email, just contact our support, and performance engineer would be answering your call and would be willing to help you, from even creating the scripts and running the scripts and analyzing them, and holding your hand. And that's also something that we're very proud of, and we keep investing in. One of the most critical areas, because it's a very complex ecosystem, and if you don't provide that, then you're not doing the maximum to get your customers maximum success that they can get. There's we eventually see that with the customer lifetime. So eventually, we're very, like I said at the beginning, we're a very customer focused company. Almost every employee in the company have conversations with our customers, if not leading a conversation, at least part of the conversation, from C levels, developers, QA, everybody, and eventually we test ourselves of how good of a job we're doing is by how how many years our customers stick with us, and so that's the customer lifetime, and we have a very high number that we're very proud of, and that's how we monitor ourselves and keep ourselves in check. If we're not doing a good job for some reason, then we know what we need to fix.
Uh, so obviously, cost is a big deal. Do you give a sense? Not, I know it all depends on maybe the cost is LoadRunner versus WebLoad. Are they comparable? Is one more than the other, less than the other? Does it all depend?
Yeah. One other area where WebLoad excels versus the competitors is the license models. We have a very flexible license module, and we totally understand that the companies that fits them, the regular annual subscription, and all good, but other companies that have other requirements, which annual subscription is not the best for them. So we have more shorter term licenses, what we call rentals, like you can rent WebLoad for short term projects, and we have lots of those. So we're very flexible. I would say almost against all our competitors in regards of licensing.
All right. So I love real world examples. So do you have any customer stories or success stories of how you were able to implement performance testing in a really tough enterprise-wide type situation?
It's a blood collection company. They have like hundreds of centers that they do blood collection from, and they just need to test and see that their system can withhold the load that those hundreds centers perform. And just thinking about it, that I need now to do load testing, mimicking like hundreds of blood centers around the US. And it's not only the software, it's like the centers themselves with their hardware and so are producing those calls eventually to the server. Just as a scenario, it's very complex no matter which tool you're using. And one of the main things that this company chose WebLoad to do it with is when they were evaluating several products, and the amount of commitment and professionalism that they have seen from our support, which are performance engineers. So they knew they have a very complex scenario, and they felt like here we have the people to help us achieve that, not only the tool but also the solution itself. And eventually, our performance engineers have spent a little bit more than 100 hours with specifically with this customer, and managed to do the performance testing successfully and ahead of schedule. And it's just because you have performance engineers to hold your hands and get you through the load testing, and that's one of the top things that we believe in and we keep investing in.
So this sounds awesome. How hard is it for someone to get started with WebLoad?
So we, first of all, like I said, we have always the person to hold your hand when you're starting, if you need that. We have a full-blown course on how to use WebLoad, from the basic things to the most advanced things. And we're just adding now to our documentation this AI feature where you can just ask a question and get the answer out of the documentation right away. So we're trying our best to make it as easy as possible, but it depends. It's very dependent on the complexity of what you're testing, and that's where the performance engineers that we have here in the company come into play. When you have a very complex and advanced scenarios, you don't have to break your head trying to achieve that on your own. You have very experienced performance engineers to help you get there. So it's going to be much easier than doing it on your own with WebLOAD or any other tool.
Right. Is there any parting words of wisdom you want to leave the guild? Maybe a piece of advice you think they need to know when anyone starts performance testing?
My 2 cents would be, being a performance engineer, and as maybe strange as it sounds, this company RadView is run by performance engineers. So I'm the CEO. Been long years in the performance testing areas. Our C-level as well, and the way we see it is that when you're looking for a load testing tool, don't just look for the tool. Look for a partner. The enterprise load testing is very complex, very tough to handle on your own, no matter which tool you would choose. You need a partner to hold your hand and together get to those goals that you're going after. And that's one of the things that I came to realize when I joined RadView and seen that in action. I just said, it just makes perfect sense. Why doesn't everybody do that? It just makes perfect sense. And you see, smiling faces on our customers, and it just makes perfect sense. And I think everybody should do that. And so don't look for the tool only. Look for the partner. Look for the whole solution. A company that would provide you the whole solution. That would be my 2 cents.
Hey, before you go, make sure to explore RadView's extensive free resources on performance testing, including guides on load testing best practices, how to avoid common load testing mistakes, and a mobile load testing starter guide. Visit testguild.me/webload to access these resources and more. All these resources are completely free. They're not gated. No registration or email is required. Dive in today and let us know what you think.